Spring is in the air, the flowers are blooming. It is flower and garden time here at Epcot. This festival gets more beautiful with every passing year, and I can't wait to show it to you guys. Let's go do it. Hi-ho everybody, this is Rob with the Ear Scouts coming to you from the Epcot International Flower and Garden Festival for 2024. There are so many new food items, new topiaries, new things to see and do that there is no way you can possibly do it all in one day here at Epcot. But unfortunately, one day is usually all most people get on their vacation. So for that reason, we are making an ultimate guide. We're gonna show you every single thing you can see, do, and eat here at this festival so that you can pick the things that look most exciting to you and make the most of your flower and garden day. Let's go do it. As soon as you set foot in the park, you're going to be greeted with the first brand new topiary. This one is themed to the new Disney movie Wish. It looks spectacular in the day, but I definitely recommend make sure you check it out on your way out at night because it looks even better after dark. Our very first food stop is going to be Connections Eatery, but I kind of recommend you maybe make this your last food stop. The reason is because the Liege waffle is back. These are individually wrapped when you get them, so it's actually really easy to kind of throw this in your bag and have it as a snack for later at the hotel. You've got a little bit of a cream cheese flavor on that icing around the outside edge, and then the sugar crystals, while they're colored orange, they don't really bring any orange flavor. They're just kind of there to be decorative and add a little bit of crunch. The other food item here is actually a variation of a sandwich that they have all year round. It's basically their fried chicken sandwich, but for the festival, they've gussied it up with some of their coleslaw, and they've added on a hot honey glaze. I love the hot honey glaze. I'm less in love with their coleslaw. I just don't care for it. It's a vinegar-based coleslaw. There's also a cocktail here. They're calling it a margarita. It does have tequila, it does have sour mix in it, but that's where the resemblance to a margarita ends. This one really, to me, tasted like they took orange-flavored Kool-Aid and mixed it with that sour mix that you get from the supermarket. There are some really great drinks at this festival, including some great margaritas, so I would say you probably want to skip this one. Connections is actually split into two sides. One is the eatery where you get those food items we just talked about. On the other side is Connections Cafe, and that's essentially the Starbucks for Epcot. In the cafe side, you're gonna find the first of our festival garden destinations. This one is the Conservatory Garden, and it's an indoor garden featuring orchids and other tropical plants. It's not that large, but it is a pretty display, and it could be a good backdrop for a photo while you're here at the festival. Coming out of the other side of Connections Eatery, you're gonna find yourself in World Discovery. This is the land of Guardians of the Galaxy and Test Track. It's also the land of a brand new topiary that is absolutely incredible. This one even plays music and it's adorable. Baby Groot has made his debut at the Flower and Garden Festival, and I hope this one comes back for many years to come. I love this topiary. There's a whole lot more to see, do, and eat in this area of the park, including more topiaries and some festival gardens. Let's go take a stroll around and take it all in, and then we're going to talk about the delicious food at the food booths in this area. Let's go do it. Joffrey's here in World Discovery. Joffrey's is pretty much always my first stop on an Epcot day because I love getting a cup of their coffee. They do offer festival-specific drinks at the different Joffrey's locations around the park. This one, I think, though, is my favorite. It's an iced honey jasmine latte. You can get it with or without Bailey's. We went with the version without the Bailey's because we really wanted to see what that honey jasmine flavor was going to taste like paired with the coffee. I was very skeptical. This did not sound good to me, but I ended up really liking it a lot. It's a slight, subtle floral flavor, but it pairs beautifully with the honey, and I was surprised at how well all of that blended with the coffee flavor. I think this is what this festival is all about, though, is trying something that you're not going to be able to try anywhere else, and I love that they included jasmine to sort of tie in to the flower and garden festival theme. Once you've had your coffee, it is definitely time for brunch, and that is why Brunch Cot is going to be our first stop here in World Discovery. This is also going to be the first stop on the Garden Graze. If you've never done one of these Epcot festivals before, there's always kind of like a food scavenger hunt. The idea is you're going to go to specific marketplaces where they're offering Garden Graze food items. When you purchase that item, you get a stamp on your festival passport, and once you collect all the stamps, you get a special treat. This time it's over at Pineapple Promenade, and we'll taste that in just a little bit. While we're on the subject of the festival passport, you definitely want to pick one of these up, even if you're not doing the Garden Graze, because it's going to have the listings of all the different topiaries and gardens, and you're also going to find the menus for all the different food booths here at the festival. But now let's talk about the delicious brunchy food that's on offer here at Brunch Cot. Most of the items are returning favorites from last year, including those amazing fried cinnamon roll bites. It's a deep fried cinnamon roll topped with bacon. How can that not be delicious? We also tried the returning avocado toast. This was one of our favorites in previous festivals, and this year, we honestly didn't really dig it. There's something funny in it this year. I think it's the olive oil that they used. It has a very distinct flavor. Eric and I both found it kind of off-putting. In fact, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't just an off day, so we came back and tried it again. It was better the second time. I think it really just depends on how much olive oil is on the toast that they're serving you, but this one's definitely pretty, and I wouldn't say don't try it if it really sounds good to you, but just know that it's got a very distinctive flavor that you might not enjoy. And finally, let's talk about our favorite item from this booth this year, and that is the new Impossible biscuits and gravy. I was a little skeptical of this one because I am a huge fan of sausage and gravy biscuits. It's one of my favorite Southern breakfast foods. This one was surprisingly delicious. I loved how spicy it was. This is a very spicy Impossible sausage, so if you're not a fan of spicy foods, you might want to skip it, but the gravy was also really rich and flavorful. If you didn't tell me that this was a vegetarian dish, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have thought there was some real sausage drippings in there. The biscuit was a little dry when we had it, but honestly, the gravy more than made up for it. We also tried the coffee cocktail that's on the menu, because in my opinion, there's no such thing as too much coffee in your Disney morning. This one had Kahlua and a vanilla vodka. I didn't really taste the vanilla vodka that much, but it was really a strong Kahlua flavor. The coffee came through in that as well. So if you're a fan of Kahlua and coffee, this is probably going to be right up your alley. Our next food stop is the Farmer's Feast, and just like the things at your local farmer's market, this is going to change up as the season changes. So what we show you here today might be a little different when you're here. We're going to show you what the menu looks like for the duration of the festival so you can see what'll be on offer when you're coming to visit. But let's talk about the things that are here right now on this early bloom menu. We're going to start out with that veal offering. I did not love this dish. I liked it. It wasn't bad, but my problem with it was the veal is very salty. You couldn't really taste anything beyond the saltiness of it. The rice was creamy, but it just didn't have as much flavor as I would like. What did have flavor, however, was that glaze on top, and that's really what saved this dish for me. That glaze added a nice bright zing, and it definitely contrasted well with the saltiness of the meat. I think that's the thing that made this something that I did end up liking, even though I didn't love it. Next up was one of my favorite desserts at this festival. It is a strawberry rhubarb upside down cake, and to me, this tasted like a really rich strawberry shortcake. I loved it. In fact, there's a strawberry shortcake on the menu at another booth we're going to show you later. I like this one even better. The cake is very tender and moist. There's a little bit of a sweet corn flavor to it, but the star of the show is definitely that fresh strawberry and rhubarb topping. There is one item here, however, that is going to be available throughout the festival, and that is actually the Garden Graze menu item. It is a grilled corn, and last year this grilled corn dish was at a different booth. It was covered with kind of like crushed up Doritos. It was not one of our favorites. This year they changed up what's going on the outside of that corn. It is still vegan, but it's like a creamy, garlicky vegan cheese spread, and it is delicious. If you're not a big fan of garlic, you might want to skip this one because there is some bold garlic flavor there, but if you're like me and you enjoy a garlic treat, this is probably something you should pick for your Garden Graze menu. Our final stop in World Discovery is the home of Orange Bird at this festival. It is the Citrus Blossom. You're gonna find so much adorable Orange Bird merchandise in here. There's also some delicious citrus-inspired food on offer here, including a returning favorite from last year. It's a lemon meringue tart. What we loved about this one is it's got a nice zippiness from the lemon, but there's kind of a marshmallow flavor to that meringue topping that mellows it all out. This was a delicious treat. There's also an orange sesame tempura shrimp item on the menu. To be honest, this one didn't have a lot of shrimp flavor, which was good for me. It didn't have a lot of sesame flavor either. You mainly tasted that tempura batter, which was delicious, and the glaze was mildly spicy, not too over the top spicy. It kind of tasted like a mildly spiced sweet and sour sauce. We also tried one of the new festival drink items on offer here. It was a key lime wine slush. I hate to say it, this was actually our least favorite cocktail of the entire festival. To me, this tasted like a really cheap, super sour green lollipop. The ingredients in this drink have never seen a citrus tree in their existence. This was all very artificial tasting. I couldn't really taste the wine in there either. Now let's follow the bridge back into World Celebration and check out all the amazing topiaries and gardens that are on offer here. There's a lot to explore in this area of the park, including some stuff that is brand new to the festival this year. One of the returning favorites is Blossoms of Fragrance, which is sponsored by Scentsy. It invites you to smell different flowers and plants, and it also lets you try out some of the smells that Scentsy has on offer that you can purchase here at Disney Parks or online from their website. Across from Blossoms of Fragrance is a brand new festival garden sponsored by Smuckers. It is a PB&J garden. If you're there at the right time, they're actually handing out free Uncrustable sandwiches, which could be a good treat for your kids if they're not as into the festival food as you are. There's also some little signs around that include fun little puns about peanut butter and jelly, and also teach you a little bit about the fruits that you might find in your peanut butter and jelly sandwich. For example, did you know that a strawberry is actually not a fruit? It is a false fruit. It's actually a flower. I did not know this, but I learned it at the PB&J garden. Well, now that we've learned a little something about the strawberry, let's take a stroll around World Celebration and check out the beautiful gardens and topiaries, and then we will meet back to talk about the food. Let's go do it. Has taken up residence at the center of the new World Celebration Garden. This is the newest area of the park that just opened up. This is eventually going to be the hub for all festival activity. They're still building a stage where there'll be some festival performances in the future. For right now, though, it feels like it is definitely not being used to its full capacity. There's a couple of festival markets over here. One is basically Sunglass Hut, and the other is a Suncatcher's booth. You can also get these Suncatchers all year round over at Animal Kingdom in the Africa area, but there's so much great seating here. There's a lot of shade. I feel like it's a big miss that they did not move some of those food booths over this way. I'm thinking maybe it's because the construction's still going on. They didn't want the food booths near the construction. I'm not really sure. but I really hope in the future they add a lot more food options since there's such great seating options here already. The Honey Bistro is back again at the festival this year, and they brought back one of our favorite festival items from last year. It's the chicken and waffles. I would say skip the hot honey chicken back at Connections and wait and get the spicy honey chicken waffles here. The chicken is juicy and delicious with a nice crispy coating. The waffle is gonna look like it's burnt. Most of the time it comes out looking burnt. Don't worry, it does not taste burnt. It's a delicious corn-based waffle and it pairs beautifully with the chicken. Our favorite thing at this booth actually this year though was the new item on offer. It's a honey glazed cauliflower and it is shockingly good. This is one of the healthiest things I think we had at the festival, and it was also one of our favorite food items flavor-wise. And for me, that is a big win when you can get something that is both healthy and delicious. There's a medley of vegetables here, and they all are infused with that honey flavor. For us, this was a healthy win-win, and we are definitely coming back for seconds during this festival. Our next stop is Florida Fresh, where you're gonna smell them grilling as you're walking up. That's because of the warm water lobster tail that they're serving. They're grilling it fresh to order. I'd never had warm water lobster before. I'm not a huge lobster fan to begin with. Eric really isn't either. So take this with a grain of salt because neither of us love lobster. But for us, this was really tough, chewy lobster meat, which we didn't care for. I did, however, like the charred flavor that you got from it being freshly grilled. Next up was the Cubanito. It's like a little Cuban sandwich. I'm sorry to say we didn't really love this one either. The bread was really dry. The meat was pretty under-seasoned. The only moisture you were getting in this was that mustard. There was a lot of mustard. In fact, that's pretty much all we could taste. Probably the winner on this menu is the strawberry shortcake. This was interesting because the cake was almost chewy like a blondie, but it had a traditional strawberry shortcake flavor to it. The strawberries were fresh, but I still think that I preferred the strawberry rhubarb upside down cake. If you're wanting sort of a strawberry shortcake style dessert, you can probably skip this booth altogether and satisfy your strawberry shortcake cravings over at Farmer's Feast. It is appropriate that the Land Pavilion would be overflowing with beautiful gardens and topiaries, but there is one food option in this area of the park as well. It's the Land Food Cart, which has been upgraded for the festival. This normally looks like one of the generic food carts from around the park, but they gave it a makeover for Flower and Garden, and it's quite lovely. The offerings inside, though, are pretty much what you would expect from one of the standard Epcot food carts. These are kind of more grab-and-go items. There's a frozen strawberry popsicle that's made with real strawberries. This is actually one that you can get at all of the ice cream carts around the park, so I wouldn't say that this is special to the festival, but it is listed in the festival menu, so we're going to talk about it. It's super sweet, but it does have some nice fresh strawberry flavor. It's also vegan, so if you're looking for a plant-based offering, this fits the bill. The other grab-and-go item is a little hummus kit. It comes with some sliced cucumbers and some crispy crackers. There's also an olive medley in there. It's perfectly fine. It's pretty much grocery store variety fare, but it is a healthy grab-and-go snack if that's what you're looking for. Another grab-and-go item is the acai parfait. This one is not terribly sweet. It comes with some granola that you can sprinkle on top. There's also some fresh berries in there. Actually, the berries that were in there were sweeter than the parfait itself. So if you're looking for a dessertish item that's not too sweet, this might fit the bill for you. In addition to the food cart, there's so many fun floral activities in this area of the park. We're going to give you a grand tour, but first I want to just talk about the highlights. They do feature the behind the scenes tour in the festival guidebook. This is a tour that is available all year round. You can do this anytime. You don't have to do it during the festival. We actually did this tour just before the festival started, so we can show you what it's like. You go behind the scenes of the Living with the Land boat ride. You get to see up close and personal how those hydroponic systems work, how these innovative growing techniques are used to grow all of the produce that you see around you. And this produce is actually used here at Disney World. In fact, whenever you see those edible flowers, those are grown right here at Living with the Land. They also have a salad at Nomad Lounge over at Animal Kingdom that's made entirely with produce from Living with the Land. My favorite part of the behind the scenes tour is actually that you can taste one of the cucumbers that's grown there. They also show you the tools that they use to create Mickey-shaped produce. They actually can make Mickey-shaped cucumbers and pumpkins. dragons, which is really cool. The other interactive experience you can do, and this one is only for the festival, it's right here behind me, it's a butterfly landing. Here you learn all about butterflies and you're gonna see tons of them up close. If you stay really still, one of them might even land on you and you can get a fun selfie. We're gonna head inside and then we're gonna show you all the other beautiful topiaries and gardens in this area of the park. Let's go do it. Butterflies are not the only thing you're going to find flying around world nature. You might also find Spike the bee. That's because Spike's pollination exploration scavenger hunt is back for 2024. Now you can do this scavenger hunt without purchasing this map, but if you want to get a little prize at the end of your journey, the map is $9.99. Keep in mind that you can use DVC annual pass discounts to get a little bit knocked off of that. The idea, like always with these scavenger hunts, is you're going to look for Spike the bee all around Epcot. He's going to be pollinating a particular flower. You want to find the sticker of that flower on the back of this map and stick it on the front at the location where you saw him pollinating it. Once you've got all these done, you get a really fun prize at the end of the day. We actually checked the prizes out already. They're really cute this year. It's like a little mini cornhole set. It even comes with a teeny tiny little bean bag. It's really cute. But if you're here early, specifically before April 9th, there's gonna be a second scavenger hunt you can take part in. This is the Extravaganza. This is very similar to Spike the Bee, except for now you're going to be looking for Easter eggs that are decorated like different Disney characters. The same idea, look for the sticker of the Easter egg that you found, put it on the map on the front, and when you're finished, you get a cute little souvenir for your efforts. That stunning Encanto topiary that welcomed you into the park last year for Flower and Garden has now been moved and it welcomes you into World Showcase. We're at that front area of World Showcase. Before you get to the countries, this is basically port of entry. There's some delicious food to be found here and some stunning topiaries. Let's go check it all out. Our first food booth here in World Showcase is going to be Trel Trellis. This one is sponsored by Impossible. Only one of the dishes here though is Impossible. It's the Impossible Farmhouse Meatball. We really like this one a lot. It was changed up a lot from the meatball dish that Impossible did last year. This time it's got this lentil bread that it's wrapped up in. It kind of reminded us of Indian food. There was definitely a cumin curry flavor throughout this treat. I think if you're a fan of Impossible things and you're a fan of Indian food, you're really gonna love this one. The other item here that we loved was the chocolate terrarium. This was just really cute and Instagrammable. It's also massive, so if you're looking for a large dessert to share, this can be a really great pick. To me, this one tasted like cookies and cream, but instead of the cream, it's just more rich chocolate mousse. It's chocolate on top of chocolate. There was a matcha crumble on top that added a little bit of color and texture. I didn't taste much matcha flavor there, there. It was very subtle. Eric could taste it though. He said to him it made it taste a little bit Asian on the finish, which he liked. Last up were some soy glazed sticky ribs. You could see them grilling these up fresh outside the booth. I wished I could say that I loved these, but the meat was just really kind of tough. For me, the mark of a really delicious rib is it should just fall off the bone. This was clinging to the bone. This was not falling off. The glaze was sweet, but that was about it. It wasn't bringing a lot of flavor to the table. There were also some peanuts thrown on there, but they didn't really save the dish either. We would say this one you could probably safely skip. The festival drink at the Joffreys here at the beginning of World Showcase is a berry chai latte. So the jasmine honey latte up at the front, we thought that sounded like it wouldn't be great, but then we were surprised at how good it was. This one sounded weird to us, and it tasted kind of weird to us too. It tasted exactly like it sounds though. It was berry flavor and chai flavor mixed together. We didn't dig that combo, but if it sounds good to you, you might want to try it. For us though, this was our least favorite of the Joffrey offerings this year. Our next stop is Pineapple Promenade, where you're going to find the returning hot dog from last year. It's a spicy hot dog with a pineapple chutney on top. We loved this one last year. It's good this year as well. The bun is nice and soft. I like the crunch that you get from the plantain chips that are on top, and the hot dog really is spicy. It's got a nice spicy kick to it. This is also the place where you're going to get your redemption treat for the Garden Graze. We went ahead and tried it because we already had all of our stamps. What I love about this redemption treat, normally you get a cookie and some sort of frozen dessert. With this festival, you actually get a little packet of wildflower seeds that you can take home and make your own little flower and garden memory in your backyard. Or what we actually did, we took the cup that the frozen treat came in and we planted the seeds in there and put it out on the porch. And it was a lovely reminder of the festival all summer long. The treat this year, I think it might be the same as it was last year. The flavor was very familiar. It's supposed to be lime Dole Whip mixed with a mango and lemonade smoothie mix. To me, it just tasted like that concentrated limeade that you get in the freezer section at the supermarket. It wasn't bad. It was good, but it wasn't anything to write home about either. I think it's worth doing the Garden Graze for the fun of getting your festival passport stamped and trying all the foods that are around. But for me, my favorite part of the redemption treat this year was definitely the souvenir cup and those wildflower seeds. World Showcase is back again for this festival, and at this point I think we can just decide this is an official eatery that's going to be here all year round at Epcot, and they're just going to add some unique festival offerings from time to time. This one first popped up last year. It stuck around for Festival of the Arts, and now it's here for this one, so I think it's safe to say this is just a fixture, and we're happy it's here. Their focus here is on gourmet soft serve items, although the festival items shook it up a little bit. There was a strawberry basil sorbet that you could get in a waffle cone. The waffle cone was pretty standard issue, but we loved the strawberry basil sorbet. It had a nice, fresh strawberry flavor, just a little hint of basil on the finish, not a strong basil flavor there. The winner at this booth, and in our opinion, maybe the winner for the whole festival, was the Flash Frozen Nitro Cheesecake. This one is just cool all the way around. When you watch them make it, they're dipping that cheesecake into the liquid nitrogen and you see the smoke. It's kind of an event in and of itself, but the best part is how delicious this thing is when it comes out. This cheesecake has really nice, bold cheese flavor. It's not like your typical Philadelphia cream cheese cheesecake. This one you can taste really good quality gourmet cheese in there. It starts with a little bit of a harder texture that kind of melts in your mouth. It pairs beautifully with the berry compote that comes on the side. Whatever you do, don't skip that flour on top. It looks like it's just decorative, but they drizzle it with honey, and it's actually got a lovely flavor to it, especially when paired with the honey and the cheese from the cheesecake. I don't know if you guys can hear the thunder behind me, but the storm clouds have definitely rolled in here at World Showcase as we enter Mexico. That's okay, because you can't have beautiful flowers without a little bit of rain. We're probably going to be dodging that rain though for the rest of this video. Here in Mexico, there is a ton of stuff to do this year for Flower and Garden. There's of course the delicious food booth over Jardín de Fiestas. There's also a brand new topiary. This year there's Miguel and Dante replacing the three caballeros which were here previously. I love this Miguel and Dante topiary. It is so cool. I think it's really between this and Groot as to which are my favorites, but I really love both of them. There's also a few festival gardens here, so we're gonna go check it all out, and I'll meet y'all over at Jardín de Fiestas to talk about the food. Some pretty high praise actually for the Jardín de Fiestas, the food booth here. Eric is from Mexico. He's usually very critical of the Mexican food you get here. He says it tastes nothing like what you get back home. In his opinion, this was the most authentic Mexican food he's had here in Orlando. It was really good this year, especially the tamal de rajas. This is actually one of my favorite dishes in Mexico, and this was a really good iteration of it. There was so much cheese in there, which is, of course, my favorite part. The rajas, which is basically strips of chili that's put inside. They add a little bit of spiciness to it, but not a lot. You really just get the taste of that fresh corn masa and the cheese, and this one is just delicious. I will be coming back for this, no question. This is going to be something that's on our menu time and time again until this festival's gone. There's also a sope de chilorio, which this is one of those things you don't find often on menus at kind of Tex-Mex places. It's like a house-made corn tortilla that's fried, but it's thicker than the one you're probably thinking of. And then it's going to have some braised pork on top, some beans, and some salsas. Last but not least, there is a flan de guayaba. This is guava flavored flan. One of the things that I didn't love about this is my favorite part of a flan is that rich caramelized flavor that you get. In this flan, it was much more fruit forward. It wasn't bad, it was really good. And Eric said it really tasted like some of the flans he would get back in Mexico. So I think this is a good treat. Just know that if you're expecting that rich caramel flan flavor, this one's gonna be more fruit forward. Of course, we also had to try one of the margaritas on offer. Eric loves lychee, so we went for the lychee margarita. As you might expect, lychee is a very sweet fruit, so this is a very sweet margarita. It did have a little bit of a smokiness to it though. I checked and it doesn't seem like it has mezcal in it, but the tequila that they're using somehow is bringing a little bit of a smokiness, and I really dig that about it. I wouldn't say this was my favorite margarita because it was a little on the sweet side for me, but it definitely beat the pants off of that margarita they're serving over at Connections. Just like last year, not a whole lot going on in the Norway Pavilion for Flower and Garden. The beautiful Anna and Elsa topiaries are back, as is the Troll topiary. There's also some topiary snowflakes, but that's pretty much it for here in Norway, so we're gonna head on to China. The playful panda topiaries are back here in China, and there is a brand new Penjing garden, which is kind of like what I think of as a bonsai garden. I'd actually never heard the term Penjing before. There wasn't a sign to explain what Penjing is, so my guess is it's just basically the Chinese equivalent of a bonsai garden. Also returning here in China is the festival food booth, the Lotus House, and the menu is actually the same as it was last year. Just like last year, we do not recommend the crispy pan-fried vegetable dumplings. They're just kind of taste a little store-bought to us, nothing really special. However, the spicy mala chicken skewer is delicious. The chicken is really tender and juicy, perfectly prepared, and the sauce that's on there is lovely, sweet with a little bit of peanut. We really enjoyed this one just as we did last year. We also tried the house-made cheesy crab wontons. These are like your favorite from your local Chinese restaurant, those deep-fried wontons with the imitation crab meat. What makes these special though, the cheese filling was really tasty and there was a lot of it. These things were really filled with cheese and imitation crab meat. I really enjoyed these. After sitting out the last festival, Refreshment Outpost is back with some festival offerings for Flower and Garden, which is appropriate because they usually offer some plant-based treats on their menu. This time, the plant-based offering is a mango Dole Whip parfait. It's got some fruit in there. When we had it, it was watermelon, mango, and pineapple. And then the whole thing is topped with a sweet chili sauce. We liked this one. I wouldn't say we loved it. The best part of it was when you got a little bite with everything in it. Unfortunately, for most of the treat, you were just eating straight Dole Whip mango, which for us is a little on the sweet side, not our favorite of the Dole Whip offerings. The other item on the menu, however, was delicious. It was a tangerine soft serve. This one is not Dole Whip. It's not plant-based. It definitely had some dairy in there. To me, it tasted kind of like a dreamsicle from your childhood, the little push-up pops that were orange, but also kind of creamy and had a little bit of a vanilla flavor to them. You could get this one by itself or as part of a float, so we went with the float option. The float was made with a red cream soda, and that was actually perfect because it really highlighted that kind of vanilla undertone of the ice cream. It was a really delicious float and definitely worth coming to the Outpost to check out. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs are back for this festival. There's also a brand new topiary this year, a Trolls topiary, and the return of the miniature gardens. Let's take a quick stroll around Germany, and I'll meet you back here at Bauern Market to talk about the food. Festival favorites from Bauern Market are back again this year, including a Garden Graze item, which is the potato pancakes with applesauce. I had more mixed feelings about this one last year. I didn't love the applesauce with the potato pancakes. This time it's grown on me a little bit. I don't know if they changed up the applesauce or not, but I just didn't mind the combo as much as I did last year. Also back from last year is the warm cheese strudel with berry compote. This is not a revelatory dessert or anything, but it is very good. The pastry is nice and flaky and buttery. It's exactly what you'd expect it to be. It's well made and it's good. Just like last year, however, the star of this booth is that pretzel bread stuffed with cheese and Black Forest ham. For me, the mark of a really good food booth item at a festival is when you get it and it's clearly been sitting under a heat lamp for a very long time and it's still one of the most delicious things at the festival. We loved it last year, loved it again this year. I can't even imagine how good this thing would have been if we had gotten it fresh. In Italy, you're gonna find one of the most spectacular topiaries that comes back year after year. This is definitely a fan favorite. It is Lady and the Tramp. You're also gonna find one of the most kind of mediocre gardens of the festival. It is the Garden Italiano. This is basically like tomato plants and eggplant plants that are just kind of in that median in the walkway. I wouldn't say this is one to go out of your way to check out, but if you've ever wondered what some of these plants that you eat look like, well, you can find them here. You're also going to find Primavera Kitchen right next door. That is the food booth. We tried everything on the menu this year. One thing that I thought was interesting, they actually used the little flower pot dish that was for the worms and dirt kind of dessert that they did last year. They used that as the dish for their appetizer this year. It is bocconcino. I think I might be saying that wrong, but it's essentially those little balls of mozzarella that you can get at the supermarket, and then there's some cherry tomatoes in there, and then the whole thing is covered in pesto, and that's it. That's exactly what this is. You could go to your grocery store and you could get those little balls of mozzarella and some cherry tomatoes and some pesto and pour it on top, and you would have this dish. It's exactly what it sounds like. I wouldn't say this is something you should go out of your way for, but if that's what you're in the mood for, here it is in a very cute potted plant presentation. Next up is the arrabbiata. This is a really spicy tomato sauce, which I loved, over some penne pasta. The penne was pretty basic, but the sauce had a lot of kick to it, which I appreciated. There were also some like cocktail style shrimp on the top. I'm not a shrimp fan. They were fine. They didn't bother me. They weren't overly fishy tasting, but I was all about the sauce in this one. I thought it was really good. Next was a quattro formaggi, which is a 4 cheese sauce. Here's my thing. If you cannot take butter, cream, cheese, and pasta and not make that really delicious, you have failed in your attempt at cooking. This is just not very good, and I don't understand how you could not make this dish good, because it's just made of nothing but delicious things. They managed to do it here at Primavera Kitchen. This is a big thumbs down for us. The sauce tasted like it was made from like canned ingredients. Like maybe they didn't use real milk, they used canned condensed milk or something. I don't know. The whole thing kind of had a jarred sauce taste to it, which is weird for the Italy food booth at the Epcot Flower and Garden Festival, but there it is. Finally, the dessert offering this year is a cannoli, and when I bit into it, I was like, is that peanut butter? Do I taste peanut butter in there? And it is. It is a chocolate peanut butter cannoli. I actually like this one. It was really unique. I'd never had a peanut butter cannoli before, and I thought it was tasty. I wouldn't say this is the best cannoli I've ever had, but it was certainly one of the most unique cannolis I've had, and I enjoyed it. As with every festival these days, there is a lot going on at the American Adventure Pavilion. Over at the American Gardens Theater, Garden Rocks is back. This is the concert series that features some pretty big names in music, as well as some local Orlando bands. You'll want to check the schedule when you're here to see who's going to be playing, but if it's an act you really want to see, you might want to consider doing the Garden Rocks dining package. This is basically where you're going to get a reservation at one of the different restaurants around Epcot, and part of your reservation is going to be a ticket to have reserved seating for Garden Rocks. That said, depending on the act, you don't really need to wait too long to get into this show, especially if you're willing to see one of the later performances. Now, we saw Richard Marx the other night, and when we saw Richard Marx, there was definitely a huge crowd there for the first performance. We weren't there later in the night to see how those crowds looked, but generally speaking, it's that first show that's the worst, and with each successive show, it's a little bit easier to get a seat. Also back from last year is that stunning topiary of Tiana, and she is standing proudly in front of the food booth Magnolia Terrace, which features delicious treats from New Orleans. And honestly, I really do think they did Tiana proud this year. All the food we had over there was really good. First off is the muffaletta panini, which we didn't really love last year, but we really liked it this year. The bread was nice and fresh and had a lot of flavor. Plus it was packed with meat and cheese. The olives brought a nice zing to the whole thing. This was a pretty good dish and also really filling. If you're looking for a small meal, this might be just the ticket. Another really huge dish on offer is the spicy chicken and andouille gumbo with wild rice. This one is huge, and when they say spicy, they definitely mean spicy. If you're not a fan of spicy food, you definitely want to skip this one. It has got a lot of kick to it. We really did enjoy all the flavors there though, and the rice was just perfectly prepared. It wasn't mushy crunchy or crunchy the way sometimes you get it at these festivals. This one was a winner. Finally was the Bananas Foster bread pudding. This was moist and delicious, and whenever I see banana on a menu, I'm always terrified it's going to be that fake banana flavor. Not the case here. This had a rich caramelized flavor from that topping and just a hint of fresh banana flavor from the real bananas that are chopped up and caramelized on top. This one was delicious. But that's not the only place you're going to get festival treats. There was a festival treat over at Joffrey's. This one was a tropical iced tea. To me, this tasted like an iced tea slushy with some lemonade in it and just a hint of tropical flavor. This one was good, not great. If you actually can hold off, there's a better frozen iced tea version just down the way, and we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. And finally, over at the funnel cake shop, there is another rendition of strawberry shortcake. This one was really good. I liked it. My only issue with it was this is the kind of thing you can get at pretty much any place that sells funnel cakes. It's a funnel cake with vanilla ice cream and strawberries and whipped cream. That's a pretty basic funnel cake order. It was prepared well, it was delicious, but I didn't feel like it was super special for the festival. When you come into Japan, you're definitely going to make a little bit of time to check out the gardens here because they are some of my favorites. There's a bonsai collection garden that's actually throughout the pavilion. It looks like it's just in one spot where the sign is, but as you walk around, you're going to find there are bonsais everywhere for this festival. There's even one that looks kind of like the Tree of Life. This is also where you're going to find my favorite festival garden. I raved about this one last year. I love it so much. It is the Shishi Odoshi Garden. This is like a musical garden that magically comes to life with water. It's just this elaborate Rube Goldberg-esque contraption that folks in Japan put in their gardens to scare away pests like crows. It's kind of like a scarecrow that is way more creative, way more complex, and way more fun. Let's stroll around and look at all the beautiful gardens, and then we'll talk about the food. There are two brand new items on the menu here at Hanami this year, plus a returning festival favorite, the frushi. I'm not a fan of sushi, but I do love me some frushi. It's fresh fruit wrapped in sushi rice. It's not overly sweet, which I like. It's kind of a dessert for those who don't like a lot of sugar in their desserts. I loved this last year. I love it again this year. It's just so cute and tasty. The other two new items were really good as well. There was a ramen cup, which initially I thought that was going to be hot ramen. This is actually chilled ramen. It's like a ramen salad. The important thing to know that we learned this after we started eating it, it comes in a cup with like a shaker top. You definitely want to shake this one up to get the flavors to all meld together. There's a dashi broth in there and there's some chicken. We really enjoyed this one, especially after we shook it up. The dashi broth has a little bit of spiciness to it. There's like a chili oil in there, and there's also a flavor that I just can't quite put my finger on, but it is delightful. There's also a new steam bun that is filled with soy-based meat, and I didn't look at the menu and realize that it was soy-based. When I first bit into it, I thought it was actual meat. It's really good. The texture is nice, the flavor is good, and as always, the steam buns here are really moist and soft and perfectly prepared. We enjoy that there were some sweet flavors, some savory flavors all together in that pillowy bun. This is definitely a great choice for any vegetarians in your group, but it's also good for someone who just likes a good steam bun. Last but certainly not least, we tried the Ichigo Breeze cocktail. I was worried this might have kind of an artificial fruit flavor to it. Artificial watermelon, not one of my favorite flavors, but that was not the case at all. There were even little bits of fruit pulp in there. I couldn't really taste the sake in there, so if you were looking for a sake drink, this one might not be the choice for you because it was very subtle. But if you're looking for something that's fruity and fresh, this one is a great pick. Next up is Morocco, where you're going to find our perennial favorite food booth, Tangerine Cafe. This one has had a very similar menu from festival to festival, but they did shake it up a bit this time. They're not even mentioning the meat skewers on the festival menu. They still have them, but I guess after like 3 successive festivals, they figured this is basically just a regular menu item now. The thing that's missing from the menu, though, is that freshly baked bread with the different dipping sauces. In its place is a Mediterranean flatbread that's topped with chermoula. If you're looking for those traditional Mediterranean flavors of olives and artichoke hearts and sun-dried tomatoes, this will be a good choice for you. They've also got a brand new cake on the menu. It's an orange blossom saffron cake. And when you hear orange blossom, you think this is going to have orange flavor. It's a very subtle orange flavor, just a hint, because it's orange blossom, not orange fruit. I think the flavors that you're getting are mainly coming from that blossom and the saffron. It almost tastes like the cream is infused with tea. Is the best way I can think to describe it. It's really unique and really delicious. The pistachios add a really nice crunch and you get a zing from that berry sauce. This was one of my favorite desserts from the festival, and I especially loved it because it was just something unique. It's not a flavor you're gonna find everywhere else. Also in this pavilion, you're gonna find the Spice Garden. It's basically in one of those little median gardens that are along the walkway. I wouldn't say it was one of my favorite gardens, but it was interesting to see what some of my favorite spices look like in plant form. Between Morocco and France is La Isla Fresca. This is home to some delicious Caribbean flavors. It's also the home of a really cute topiary of Miss Piggy and Kermit. This is the booth that had one of our favorite desserts a couple of years back. It's a coconut tres leches cake that's actually plant-based. It's surprisingly creamy for a plant-based cake, but unfortunately, I feel like each successive year, we haven't liked it quite as much as the year before. This year, as well as last year, we just felt like the cake was a little on the mushy side. Maybe it had just been sitting a while, and so that plant-based milk had kind of broken it down a little bit more than we would have liked. It was still sweet and coconutty and delicious. We just wish the texture had been as good as it was that first year. Our favorite thing from the booth this year, though, was the Impossible Jamaican beef patty. The Impossible meat was beautifully seasoned. It was very spicy though, so do be aware this is on the spicy side, but we loved that there was a sweet sauce that kind of complemented the spicy, savory flavors from the Impossible meat. We also liked that the pastry held up really well to both the sauce and the meat. You could kind of hold this and eat it on the go, which is always a big plus for park food. Once again, France is home to some stunning Beauty and the Beast topiaries. We were here the other night around sunset, and let me tell you, that is the time you want to see these topiaries. They look so beautiful with that dramatic sky behind them. These are beautiful all day long, to be sure, but my favorite time to check them out is at sunset or in the evening. While you're here, of course, you got to try some festival treats from Fleur de Lis. That is the France food booth. Fleur de Lis brought back 2 treats from previous years and added 2 new ones. One of those items was a favorite from last year. It was the croissant filled with chèvre, and it was delicious again this year. Nice buttery flaky croissant, and it has a healthy amount of chèvre on the inside with just a little hint of garlic. This one is rich and delicious. Also returning from last year was the caramelized beignet, and I feel like it is shameful to call this thing a beignet. If you want a delicious beignet, head on over to Port Orleans. They have Mickey-shaped beignets that are heavenly. This reminded me more of like a donut you get at your local grocery store. And I don't mean the Krispy Kreme donuts. I mean the ones that come in the bakery case. It just wasn't very good. It was a pretty standard issue vanilla cream on the inside. The one thing I did like about it was the caramelized topping. It kind of reminds you of creme brulee, but it really isn't enough to save it because the beignet itself is just a really lame donut. Unfortunately, we didn't really like either of the 2 new items either. There was a duck on the menu that was really under-seasoned. This thing was crying out for some salt. Even the gravy didn't really have much flavor. The potatoes were bland. The whole thing was just bland. I'd say if you want to try this, you probably want to pack a salt shaker with you and maybe some pepper for good measure. There was also a lavender citrus thyme cake, which we didn't really taste the lavender or the thyme. There was definitely citrus there and flavor from the raspberry. The cake itself was pretty dry. It might have just been one of those things where we got it at the wrong time, but this was unfortunately a really underwhelming treat for us. Here in the UK Pavilion, there is sadly still no festival food booth for Flower and Garden, but they did get a festival treat. It is a special festival cocktail that you can get from the beer cart here, and we are so excited to report it was actually our favorite cocktail of the entire festival. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit, but first, I want to talk about all the topiaries and gardens you're going to find here. This pavilion has 3 different gardens, including the returning favorite tea garden. There's even a guided tour of the tea garden done by the folks here in the tea shop. There's a sandwich board sign out front that tells you the times for the day. So if that's something you really want to do, you probably want to check that sign and see what times you can do it the day you're here. Let's go take a look at all those topiaries and gardens, and I will meet you back at the beer cart to talk about that delicious cocktail. The beer cart is right outside of Rose and Crown, and the festival cocktail is a Scottish thistle, and it is a perfect cocktail. It is frosty and sweet, but not too sweet. It's fruity, but not too fruity. The main flavor you get is a big punch of cucumber, and when it is hot outside, which is most days here in Orlando, this is the most refreshing beverage. I wish they would keep this one all year round. It is my new favorite Epcot hot weather cocktail. Nestled between Canada and the UK is our final Joffrey stop, and we saved one of the best for last. This one is a citrus frosted iced tea they're doing for the festival. I still think my favorite is the coffee from the top of this video, but this one is a close second. This is basically a frosty Arnold Palmer. If you're a fan of Arnold Palmer, that mix of lemonade and iced tea, you're gonna love this one as well. It's a little sweeter than I would like it to be, but it's still a nice refreshing treat, and if you're looking for a good sweet and lemony iced tea, this is probably the best one to pick during the festival. Our final stop is Canada, home to a whole bunch of festival food and some adorable topiaries. Here in Canada, there's the traditional festival booth, Northern Bloom. There's also a festival poutine treat from Refreshment Port. They've even got a special festival drink this year at the popcorn cart, where you normally get that delicious maple popcorn. Let's start with that drink. It's called a peach smash, but to me, it actually tasted more like a Moscow Mule. I got a really strong ginger flavor and just a hint of the peach on the finish. I also didn't get a strong flavor from the whiskey that was in there, but it was still a delicious, refreshing drink. Over at Refreshment Port, you're gonna find a plant-based poutine that I feel like you really can't call this poutine, because poutine is French fries and gravy and cheese curds, and this doesn't have French fries or gravy or cheese curds. It is, however, plant-based and delicious, so I guess we'll give it a pass since we really did enjoy it. Basically, what you got here is tater tots that are topped with an Impossible chicken that's been tossed in a buffalo sauce, and then there's a plant-based ranch dressing and some plant-based blue cheese crumbles. It's delicious, it's tasty, it's got a nice zingy kick from the buffalo sauce. Even if you're not a plant-based eater, I think you'll really enjoy this one, and it's actually perfect for sharing. So if you've got a group who are looking for a tasty buffalo snack, this will probably fit the bill perfectly, even though it's definitely not poutine. The featured dish at Northern Bloom is seared scallops with a bacon vinaigrette. You can actually see them searing these fresh to order right beside the festival booth, and you can actually smell them as you walk up as well. I am not a big fan of fish, and I was surprised. I actually didn't mind these. I think because they were so fresh and they had that bacon vinaigrette that kind of cut the fishy flavor, these didn't really taste fishy to me at all. I was also with a group of folks who love fish and specifically love scallops, and they all agreed this was a really delicious festival treat. Returning from last year were the beef tenderloin tips, and just like last year, I didn't really dig these. While I normally love the beef dishes that come from the Canada food booth at different festivals, I just don't dig this tenderloin dish. It's really tough. The meat is chewy. It's got an okay flavor, but I just really can't get past the texture of it. I wish they would braise these and just slow cook them until they get to be a bit more tender. My favorite thing with this one was definitely the truffle mashed potatoes. And finally, they brought back one of our favorite festival desserts, the chocolate maple whiskey cake. This one is a decadent, rich, super moist chocolate cake. At the center is a whiskey cream, and there's some maple drizzle on top. This thing is heavenly. The maple flavor here is very subtle, as is the whiskey flavor. The main flavor you get is a big punch of chocolate flavor. I'm a chocoholic, so I am definitely going to be coming back for seconds before this festival is over. It is one of my favorite desserts. I often enjoy ending my night up at the front entrance, just chilling out and watching the different light shows that happen on Spaceship Earth each night. There's always going to be one that is unique to each of the festivals, and this one is the Encanto one. It's fine. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites. That said, if you want to see the Encanto one, it will only run during Flower and Garden. Well, my friends, that is a wrap on our Flower and Garden journey. Before we go, I want to give a huge thank you to our Patreon family. Thank you so much for supporting what we do here at Ear Scouts. If you'd like to join them and get access to some special bonus content, head over to patreon.com/Ear Scouts. I also want to thank all of you for watching this video. I hope it helped you to decide what things you want to make part of your Flower and Garden visit. If it did, give this video a like, subscribe to our channel, and then ring that bell. That way you'll be notified whenever new videos like this come out. Until next time, don't forget to think happy thoughts, everybody. We'll see you again real soon.